Awesome. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Hi, Danielle. So
Hello.
tell us more about yourself and about your business.
I'm a medium, but it goes so much beyond mediumship for me. Medium is someone who connects to people who cross over. You're kind of like that middle person. It's like someone whispers in your ear, and then I tell the person the message, and you're kind of that middle person. I love mediumship. I love doing readings like that. I also do psychic readings, which is past, present, and guidance into the future. And that's just the way I choose to work with guidance rather than saying, like, this is what you have to do, this is what you want to do. But it's up to you to kind of decide the kind of psychic and the kind of reader that you want to be. So those are the kinds of readings that I do. But my real passion is teaching. I love teaching about psychic and mediumship work. And, I help people get to where they want to go with mindset and shifting mindset and things like that. So I also mentor in things like that as well. So that's always fun.
Awesome. Thank you. And for like mindset, is it mainly, are you teaching people to become a medium, to become a psychic, to start a spiritual
Well,
business, or generic mindset? What are you focusing on?
all of the above. I do
Awesome.
all of that. That's all the kind of mindset work that I do. I don't love anything any more than another thing, but there's so many ways to train your mindset, and everything always comes down to inner work. So I'm kind of the inner work person when it comes to all of that. So that's all the stuff that I teach. Like if you are learning about psychic and mediumship and how to enhance your abilities and all of that, that's awesome.
Mhm.
But you're going to get to a point in your journey where you need to do that personal development work. Everyone gets to that point. So people either start off wanting to learn about the psychic and the mediumship, and then they shift over to the inner work, or they want to start with the inner work and then they kind of shift over to the mediumship and psychic work. So everyone kind of learns both because when you're clearer within yourself, you have more clarity when you're doing your readings and things like that. So you naturally open up doing that self work. So it kind of all goes hand in hand, even though it's completely different work.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, and I was just going to ask you that. So like tell us more about what is inner work? What do you mean when you say, do your inner work? What does that mean for you?
Well, it can mean something different for everybody, but for me, that self work, that inner work, it's working on yourself, figuring out if you have triggers, if you have something that bothers you, that somebody says to you or does to you, or whatever. It's kind of like holding up a mirror and saying, "Well, why is this bothering me? If they didn't mean it the way I took it, and I know that, why am I still triggered by it?" Or things like that. So when we do the inner work on ourselves, it helps us to be more confident. It helps us manifest better, and it helps us bring us to certain places in our life where we can really thrive. Like if you have, if someone told you in kindergarten that your voice was funny, and you want to be a public speaker, but you have a lack of confidence when it comes to speaking. Maybe you're afraid to speak because you're triggered by something that someone said or did to you. It's just a matter of learning to forgive and let things go so that you can propel yourself forward. So that's how not doing our inner work can hold us back a little bit. And the truth is, everybody has something to work on. So we're always constantly working on ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And so do you do this for yourself? Like, do you do this inner work with a mentor? Do you do it with yourself? Do you do it in form of a meditation? Are you journaling? How do you do it?
Well, you know what? I've worked with two mentors for one of them for almost 11 years now. Maybe a little over 11 years now, and the other one probably a little over 8 years now. I work with both of them still. But when I first started on my journey, I first started with mediumship and psychic work, and I self-taught for a really long time. But you go through so many highs and lows with it, especially when you're trying to get to know who you are. I had no idea how screwed up I was, just like everybody else, because I'm like, oh yeah, I'm perfect, and then like I start going through all this stuff and I'm like, wow, I'm fucked up, so like you start to work on yourself and there's always things to work on. But I always recommend to people, have a mentor or at least a friend that you can bounce things off of, because it's really hard going through this journey on your own, because a lot of times you think you're crazy, or you think you're cracking up a little bit, or you want to give up if you're working towards something, and sometimes you just need that little cheerleader, rooting you on. So it's really important during this, the inner work journey, to surround yourself with people who want you to succeed just as much as you do. And really look at your crowd, and, really surround yourself with the people who are cheering you on, and not the people who are like, what are you doing? This is ridiculous. Like, not the people who are trying to keep you here. You want to surround yourself with the people who are trying to elevate you, because that's really, really important to keep your mood and your spirits up, because there's some hard work to do, and, you need support. So however you get that support, it's different for everybody. For me personally, it was friends and mentors that really helped me get through that.
Yeah, and like you said, like inner work is sometimes a long journey. We're all like layers of onions that we're peeling off. So, like in terms of motivation, what would you tell someone when they're on that self, journey, inner work journey, and they're thinking, "Oh my God, there are too many layers. Like, when is this ever gonna get done?"
It's never going to end. It's never going to end, because we're so imperfectly perfect that there's always something. Every time you have a goal or a dream, like, and you achieve it, don't
Yeah,
you want more? Like, we're always going to, as humans, we're always going to want more. There's always going to be something that we want to change, It's like, oh, you know what? I think I'm going to lose 20 pounds. And then you lose 20 pounds and you're like, oh, this isn't good enough. I want to lose 30 pounds. Like, there's always, like, we're always competing with ourselves, so
yeah.
to speak. And, you can be in a good place with it, but while also working towards more. So, the things that motivate me is myself. Like, just, you have to want it. You can't tell, someone else can't tell you, okay, go do this or go do that. And like, you can't want it for somebody else. Like, you have to want it for yourself. So the biggest motivator for me was, me trying to achieve my goals. And it took a long time for me to be my own motivation. I utilized family and friends and, my kids. Like, I used outside things to motivate me a lot. And sometimes you might need that. You might feel like you need that. But the truth is, when you start doing all the inner work, you realize that all you really need is your own motivation and yourself. So once you get to that place of self-love and self-care, you're going to realize that you're the most important thing that you need to work for. And when you start using yourself as your own motivation, that's when you start to see things really catapult. So
Yeah, that's so true.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Like I felt like on my own journey, or if we talk about someone becoming a medium and they're trying to balance it all, they want to become a medium and maybe start it as their business, and they also want to do their inner work, and maybe they're still also doing a 9 to 5, and they also have kids. So it's like, what do I focus on first? What is the priority? Like that's where I felt in my journey. I was getting a bit lost. I'm like, oh my God, what do I do first?
That sounds very familiar. Yeah. No, I went through that too. I was at a 9 to 5 that I hated. I felt miserable. Um, I had, I felt like I had no time to put all the energy into what I really wanted to put the energy into, which was my mediumship and my business. I wanted it to grow. So it's like, how do you make it grow if you don't want to do your 9 to 5 anymore? How do you let your business grow? And then where do you fit your kids into the equation? They need attention too, or your husband, your family, it was, balance was probably one of the hardest things that I needed to learn, but your balance will kind of evolve with you. And this sounds very simple, and it is, but we make it difficult. What really helped me was making sure my needs were met and being conscious in my present moment. I had to do things that made me happy, because if I got everybody else's stuff done during the day and then I came back to me, and none of my needs were met at the end of the day, I was pretty cranky, you know? And then nobody was really getting the best of me because I wasn't even giving myself the best of me. So the self-care was very important. It's like, all right, well, how do you squeeze that in if you have no time during the day? You will feel very fulfilled if you're doing all the right things. So if my daughter wanted me to play with her, like I would be playing with her, but also answering emails, and I would be doing five things at once while I was playing with her. And I realized like she wasn't getting all of me. She wasn't getting the full value of me, and everything was getting like a part of me or a percentage of me and not 100%. So when I was playing with my daughter, my phone is down and I'm focusing on just playing with her. You know, 20 quality minutes is better than an hour of her not getting your full attention and her feeling like she's fighting for my attention and fighting for what she feels she needs too. So being conscious and giving whatever was in front of me my full attention while it was happening was the most crucial thing I could have done for myself, and probably the best way I learned balance, because if you feel like you're giving all of yourself to each particular moment, then even if you don't have everything done that you wanted to do at the end of the day, you still feel fulfilled because you gave all of yourself and you put all the effort into each thing that you did that day, and you didn't kind of half-ass things. So it makes a really big difference.
Yeah, I feel a lot of people can relate to that. So that was really good advice. Thank you. And that's also something that I learned is, when you give, yeah, when you fill your own cup, then you're able to help others more. So what kind of advice would you give to, especially like moms who are very busy, or that there's not enough time, there's not enough money for self-care, self-love? What can we do in 5 minutes for self-love?
Don't be so hard on yourself. And as long as you know that you're doing your best, I feel like you will. When you're, the first thing, if you feel like you're not doing enough and you don't have the money for this and you don't have this for that and that for this, you're never going to. You have to change your mindset. You have to know that you are enough, you're doing enough, and you're creating whatever it is that you're creating, and it's happening. If you don't have the money to take your kids wherever you want to go, to Disneyland or, to whatever you want to do, you don't have the money yet, but you can focus on all the things that you do have the money for. You could focus on all the things that you can do that doesn't involve money. There's always something to do. When I didn't have the money to do certain things with my kids, I gave the best thing that you can give your kids is your time. That's the most valuable thing all of us have is time. Time is so precious, you can never get it back. It's something that is very limited here for us on earth, and time is so important. And it's really important to use that time very wisely. So use that time with your family. Like, if you're going to use that time with your family, just giving them that quality time, you're going to see a huge difference in your kids, and you're going to see a difference in their energy, in your energy, and how you feel. And that's going to be all you need. So if you're a mom and you're trying to, you know, balance everything and you feel like, you're falling short, you're not. Just all your children want is time. That's all they want from you.
Wow, yes, that's so true. Yeah, and thank you for bringing us, to the present moment, to what's important. So thanks for that. I want to go back again to the inner work. So you said when we do our inner work, we also become a really good medium once we're doing our inner work. So when you are doing a mediumship reading and you have to give a message to someone, and maybe it's touching upon your triggers. How does that reading go? Or does spirit not give you a message which is near your triggers?
So spirit wants to guide you towards the things that you need to learn, right? So when you're doing a reading, if it triggers you in some way, there a few things could happen. You may just feel triggered and not know the information that you're getting. You might not know why you're triggered, but you feel triggered. And that's usually something coming through that you're blocking out that much that you're not even getting the information. Another thing that could happen is you may not want to deliver the message, and you might really proceed with caution around the message that you're receiving, which isn't good for you or the person that you're sitting with, because they're not getting the full message. It's not our job to filter anything, just give it the way Spirit's giving it to us. Another thing that could happen is you may deliver the message beautifully, but you might go into your thought process and give your own advice, where people aren't paying you for your advice or your opinions. They're paying you to communicate with Spirit. So you might get your thoughts intertwined with the reading. And another thing that could happen is, you might deliver a beautiful message and you might do it exactly how you're supposed to. And then after the reading, you may get very triggered and you might spiral a little bit, and kind of go and spiral in your own way somehow, and constantly be triggered or be reliving certain things, certain memories that you have. So all those things could happen. But when we work on ourselves and we work through the memory of something, if something happened to us, the memory of it, it's always going to be there because it happened. But sometimes when people don't work on it, the memory comes in, something reminds them, and the memory comes in, and then all of a sudden we redigest it again as if it just happened, and that's why we get triggered. But when the memory comes in for somebody who worked on it, you acknowledge that, all right, this is for the reading or this is for whatever, and then it leaves. All right, I worked on this, and you send it off, and you don't redigest anything again, and you're not triggered by it anymore, but the memory of it's there, and then it leaves. So that's the difference between having worked on it already and letting it go, forgave, whatever you had to do to have compassion to like kind of send it off, or we redigest it. And that, you know, that could come up in so many different ways for us. But when you work on yourself, and as long as if you're not redigesting it and you already let it go, then you do the reading and you move on, like you just continue your day. So you see with much more clarity when you're clear.
Correct. Yeah. Awesome. And so, yeah, you just mentioned that, take giving advice from yourself versus giving the message from spirit. How do you keep yourself out of the reading?
That's something that kind of goes with practice. When I first started doing this, I would feel so deeply for each person because, listen, let's face it, there are people who have some really, really sad stories, and you just so badly want to help people, you know. Um, a big thing that I had to work on with one of my mentors was, I'm like, I need to help them. because they were put in front of me because I need to help, or I felt so devoted to each person. Like I was the medium that called you like a week later, like, how you doing? And I'm not supposed to do that. Like you're just supposed to do the reading and that's it. But I would get so invested, they would still be on my mind for weeks or even months after the reading. And I had to stop taking on their energy as my own. And finally, that comes with self-care work and things like that, because it's not that everybody can't be helped. Everybody can be helped, but you can't help everybody. So, you just have to trust the information that you're getting from spirit to just, hopefully they take the seed you planted and they can make their life better, or they can move on, move forward, forgive, do whatever they got to do to move on the way they need to. But it was hard for me in the beginning to not digest everything that I was getting. And now it's like sometimes I feel so heartless because I feel for them in the moment, and then after they leave, I'm like, okay, what's for lunch? Like, like just, and I'm like, oh my God, how do I do that? Like, how do I jump from like one thing to the other? But when it doesn't have anything to do with you, you have to let it go. It feels so much better that way. I feel so much lighter. And it's not, you're not holding on to so much from readings when you could learn to do that. And the best thing to do is just to have compassion and kind of know your role in all of it. But that just comes with time and practice and inner work too. Inner work is also knowing what's yours and what's not. What's spirit's energy, what's somebody else's energy that you're picking up on empathically, and what's yours. So when you do the inner work, you get to know who you are. And when you know who you truly are, you know what energy belongs there and what doesn't. So it makes it much easier. I
Yeah,
think I
yeah,
kind
it
of spiraled on
sounds.
that question a
No,
little,
no,
but
no. Yeah, it does sound like a tough thing, and yeah, you're right. It comes with time and practice to, yeah, do that. So you're maintaining a beautiful balance of that. So that's really good.
thank
Um, y-
you.
you mentioned like you were self-taught in the beginning, and I found that very interesting. So tell us more about that. Was spirit guiding you, giving you the messages on what to do?
Yeah, when I first started, I was going to classes for a little while, and I still kept in touch with my mentor, but my because of unexpected life things, my hours at work got changed. So I worked a lot of nights, and that's when a lot of the classes were at night. And I started, not being able to attend, but I still wanted to pursue what I was doing. So that's when I kind of went online and I looked up like psychic development exercises and this and that. And I just prayed that, something would open up during the day or something that I could attend and go to. And eventually it did. Eventually a day class opened up and I started going to that for a few months. And then I was also practicing at work in the downtime that I had where I was. Luckily, I was in a place where I had a lot of downtime, so I was able to do that. And then, and you just kind of go with the moments, like the day class I was going to. It turns out my husband's schedule kind of changed a little bit, and I wasn't able to attend the day class anymore because of scheduling conflicts. And I ended up, then something else opened up. And, it's just always like, it just kind of evolves with you. Like, so every time something happened, I was like, worst thing in the world, I can't attend my one class. But then something else opened up that I was able to do. And that was really cool. So, if something's meant for you, it's just, and you know and you're doing all the right things, doors are going to keep opening in different directions, but that's also going to help you grow. So that was how I did that. But in the meantime, I would do like psychic exercises, and I was around a lot of people who thought it was really interesting, and they helped me practice, and they would bring friends to my job where I could practice readings. And I would go online on Facebook at the time and go in all these like mediumship help groups, so to speak. And I would ask people like, oh, can I get 3 people so I can do 15-minute readings? I would do readings every day with like I would do like 3 15 to 20 minute readings each day and just practice and build my relationship with spirit. And that's how I did it. And and then another mentor opened up, which if I got this person in the beginning, I would have never stuck with them. So I got them at a point where it was really good for me to work with them. And I still work with both my mentors. So
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, it's like when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right? When, when,
always.
yeah, so when you're ready, everything will come into the picture. So that's the question back to you. What was your desire that was like, why did you want to be a medium? Why were you working so hard towards this?
I always said the one career that keeps my focus for more than a year is going to be the career that I stick with. And nothing ever held my interest um, as much as mediumship did. And it was just something I always like kind of dip my toe in and out of things. And I was always like mediocre at a lot of things. And when I found mediumship, I felt like I was like instantly good at it. Like I just felt like, because it's something that's innately in me and it was always there. The abilities were over there, but they just weren't recognized from me. So once I started recognizing them, I was like, wow, I've been doing this my whole life and I didn't even know it. So it just came so naturally, and it came even more naturally once the more I figured out who I was. So it just allowed me to be more myself in the readings. And I always say mediumship saved me, and it really did in so many ways. So
That's awesome. All right. Can you tell us about the angel numbers? So if someone is seeing 111, what does that mean? And Is it something like specific to you? So that 1 1 means something to me and something else to you?
I get this question all the time. Everyone's always wanting to know about the angel numbers. The truth is, you can Google any number you want to Google, and it's going to tell you something, right? But it's what it means to you. It's your interpretation of it. If you look up something and you say, okay, 111 means this, so if you create that rule in your mind, then that's what it's going to mean to you. And when you're going to see it, when you need to feel guided in a certain way. So it's really what it means to you. So you can interpret your own numbers if you see them all the time. I see, I see a number all the time that represents, for me, it's someone in spirit and it's their birthday. And the number is their birthday, so I see that all the time, so I always know that that person is with me when I see this number. I see 444 a lot. I have a necklace that says 444. I have it tattooed on me. And maybe that's a little dramatic, but I just have, whenever I see 444, it's just, for me, it's just a symbol of love. And it just is spirit letting me know that I'm going in the right direction, and that I'm loved by people and that I have that love around me. And sometimes when you need to see it, I feel that around me. And sometimes when I'm trying to make a decision and I constantly see 444, it just reminds me to go back to a place of self-love, right? Because that's where all the answers are anyway. It's all here. So, it kind of reminds you, it's also the fourth chakra, the heart chakra. So it's just a constant reminder of love for me. And it just reminds me either to go back to that place or to lead with that. And it's always appropriate when I see it. So, but yeah, so everybody will see different numbers and it'll mean different things to them.
So is it that I can assign a meaning and tell spirit, like if I want, if I'm going in the correct path, show me this number.
Absolutely. You could definitely assign that number to yourself. And as readers, we all also have like symbol libraries, so to speak, where, if I see a rose, I want it to mean this. If I see this, I want it to mean that. We can do that. Sometimes spirit has other ideas for us, but usually we can set what we want certain things to mean. My husband has a thing where when he says 911, if he sees 911, it means for him to just stop what he's doing. Like it's not the right path, he shouldn't be doing it. So everyone has like little quirks, little different things. But if you see a thing and you don't know what it means, ask spirit to be more clear what it means, or maybe you can try to interpret it yourself and then see if it kind of coincides next time you see it. But you can definitely assign things with certain meanings.
Perfect. Yeah, ask your husband not to hang out with Mike because it'll be 911 all the time over here. He loves police cars. So it's a 911. He's like, let's dial 911.
That's so funny.
Um, so am I the one creating the sign, or is it spirit creating the sign? Are we co-creating? Am I the one?
I feel like we are creators of our own reality and everything, everything that happens. I do feel that even though we are, creators for ourselves, I do feel like, we always have a friend sometimes. So the universe does help, I feel like, guide us into the right direction. But ultimately, we have free will and we can make our own decisions. But if we're asking for guidance, you're asking someone to help you, in spirit, someone to help you co-create. But ultimately, you we could either choose to listen or not. So I do feel like we are the creators of our own reality. Yeah.
And when you mention getting guidance from spirit, like, do you have a specific spirit guide that you talk with that helps you? Or is it an ascended master? Like, how do you approach?
There's so many different terms for all of this, but I'm gonna speak from a place how I normally speak about it, and I'll explain to the best of what I've experienced. So everybody, from your first breath to your last breath, I feel like everyone has a soul guide that comes to them. So the soul guide that comes to you is with you from birth till death, and they're always with you, and they help you along your way. You have to, ask for help in order to get that. That's why people always say the power of prayer, because you're praying, you're asking, so if you're constantly asking, this guide is always with you, they will help you. Then I believe there are spirit guides, which I like to call these spirit guides teachers, right? So these teachers will kind of come in and out of your life, just like you go from first grade to second grade. You learn everything you need to learn in first grade, then you don't have that teacher anymore. And then you get a new teacher where you learn new things. And then when you learn what you need to learn from them, then you move on to different teachers, right? So I believe these spirit guides or teachers, so to speak, they kind of come in and out as needed. Ascended masters, whatever you want to refer to them as, I feel like they all come in at the appropriate time. So I had your spirit guides could be loved ones and people like that in spirit as well. I felt like my great grandmother was helping me when I first started on my journey. And then she kind of once I learned what I needed to learn from her, she kind of stepped back as a guide and stepped forward as a loved one. So it felt different. I didn't feel like she was constantly like with me, but I knew she was with me, if that makes sense. And when I do group demos and group readings, I have different guides that work with me in groups than that work with me when I'm just in spirit. So, and I just feel like I don't know, that's the best way I could describe them. That I have different people that work with me for different things, so to
So
speak. So they're constantly flooding in and out. Like people might have some that are like known to them, like this is who I have, this is their names. They don't need names. They don't need to take a shape or a form. They don't have to look like people. They can look like colors, lights. You could just know they're there. Some people are like, I don't know who my guide is because I've never seen them. Doesn't matter. You could just feel them. Just trust that they're there. Don't think you don't have any. Trust that they're there. There's always people there on the other side lifting you and helping you when you ask. Mhm.
so if your guide is a loved one, then is it that they're maybe I don't like their ego, or that they're giving advice from like their point of view? Or is it advice that is beneficial for me? Like that's the kind of question I'm trying to ask. I don't know
I,
if
you
I
know what,
framed it.
that's a good question, and I understand what you're asking me. I feel like they're in a position where they can help you for what you're asking. Like if there's something in particular that you're asking, I feel like it's something that they could help you with. And then you learn what you learn and you move forward. It's nothing that they're going to, make worse for you. Like it's only going to be, it's coming from pure love. So that maybe like, there's certain people that could say things a certain way to you or make you feel things a certain way. Like like two people might say the exact same thing to you, just differently, and you hear one of them, the other one, you're like, I don't know if that makes sense. Sometimes you need a little translation. So the spirit's gonna bring you someone that you're gonna be able to get the message with. If some kind of scientist tried to like explain something in scientific terms, I'm going to be like, what? I'm not going to understand. But if I had somebody like explaining it to me simply and translating something for me simply, I'm going to be like, oh, okay. So they're kind of giving you people where you could hear them. Like if I'm a medium. There's a lot of terms that maybe someone else doesn't understand, like what I'm talking about. So I have to speak on a level where they could hear me. Just like I was talking before, like you might be here and then a scientist is talking to you in scientific terms where they have to kind of come down and talk to me a certain way, so it's just a matter of the advice is good and the guidance is pure, but it's just a matter of where are you hearing them at, who can speak to you where you can understand them. Like my old friend, I'm terrible with directions, like north, south, east, west. I'm like, I have no idea I don't know, I'm going towards the gas station. I don't know. The gas station's on my right. Like, my friend used to give me somebody might be like, go west on this highway. And I'm like, what? And then my friend will be like, the gas station that pumps your gas? Right, go there and make a right towards the bagel store that you like, and then go all the way down. That's how I have to have directions, so she knew how to talk to me. Like, they gave me the same information. I got to where I was going, but that's why you have to talk to me. You can't tell me go west. I'm going to be like, what are you talking about? So,
Yeah,
it's just like that. That's how it is with your spirit guides. They send you somebody where you're gonna hear the message.
for sure. Yeah, and I'm exactly like you. You need to give me directions with my favorite bagel stop. That's the only way I know. Um, so when I ask a question and like I don't say the name of the spirit guide, so then it's like whoever wants to step forward will come in and help.
Yeah, I mean, they don't need to have a name, they don't need to have a name. We name them for our own convenience, or they might give you a name because you feel like you need a name, but you don't. You don't need any of that. But it's whatever's convenient wherever you're gonna hear them. However you feel like you need to get the information processed through yourself is how they're going to give it to you. So if spirit has given you a name, that's fine. And you know what? And technically, too, when I'm doing a mediumship reading, technically souls have no gender. So but I still might be like, oh, I have a female energy stepping forward, this is your mom, blah 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 blah, and I do my reading like that, but it's for convenience. It's not because a soul has a gender, though, but it's just so that person knows who it is. And there are some mediums out there who don't believe it's because souls have no gender, they don't believe in giving you one during a reading, and that's fine. That's just another belief structure. But it's it's how you're going to resonate most with the person that you're doing the reading for. And that's it.
So if someone is just starting out on their journey, either becoming psychic, a medium, or intuitive, and they just want to know answers for themselves, how do they contact spirit? What's the phone number?
I love that question. How do they contact spirit? Well, you know what? It depends on what somebody wants. Like, you could, if you sit and you can meditate, you can get to a place within yourself where you can kind of calm the chatter, clear the chatter, and ask direct questions and trust the answers that you're getting. It's all about really trusting spirit, trusting the information that you're receiving. And a lot of times it's like a muscle that you have to work out. Like, you have to practice it a few times, because every single psychic or medium that I know who has practiced doing all this has questioned themselves, like, how do I know it's spirit and I'm not just thinking it? Or like, they don't trust the information yet. You have to build that relationship with spirit, build that trust. And you could kind of sit in your power, which is where you kind of just sit and envision spirit kind of like coming into you, and imagine your light around you kind of growing larger and larger. When you do this and you just sit with spirit, it's different than meditation. You kind of just sit and envision spirit with you, and just kind of get to know spirit. Like, what does spirit feel like? What do my own thoughts feel like? And just be conscious of it. You get it with practice, though. It's not like overnight and you're like, okay, I know everything now. It's practice, and it's just definitely being able to put yourself aside and trust the guidance that's flowing into you, and knowing what's my own guidance and what spirit is bringing me. Like, you'll be able to like feel and sense the difference after you've been working with them for a little while. I can't explain it, but you can do that. But the truth is, like, spirit's always like right there, and they're always ready to work with you. And sometimes if spirit might come through as anxiety, if you're trying, like, because they're always with you. But if you don't know how to channel the message, or you don't know how to stop and just listen and really hear them, it can come through as anxiety sometimes for a lot of people. So people mistake anxiety for spirit a lot as well, too.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And I find like if I go to like two different or three different psychics and I get different kind of advice, or it's just like maybe I'm resonating more with one psychic than the other. What does that mean?
Well, it depends on, are you talking about like if, if you get the same topic and like controversial like information, are you saying like that? Or if that's what you're talking about? Just like if you said like, is this relationship right for me? And one psychic says yes and one psychic says no. Is that like kind of what you're talking about?
Yes, yeah.
Um, you know, yeah, what, every situation I feel like it depends because sometimes it just, yeah, it's a case by case thing because sometimes you might feel a certain way and then you change your actions and it changes your outcome. So I feel like you that could happen. So I'll give you an example. So before I got pregnant with my second child, everybody said to me, everyone's like, you're gonna have a boy, blah, 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 for my second baby. My whole life, like, well, not my whole life, but when I was with my husband, we agreed that we wanted to have three children. And I wanted two boys and a girl. I guess I was already manifesting. I'm like, I wanted the boys first and then the girl last. And I wanted three children. And that's when all the psychics were telling me, oh, I had my first child was a boy. And then before I got pregnant with my second child, they were all like, boy, 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 right? But during this process, I told my husband and I talked, and we decided that we're only going to have two. And after I conceived, everybody was like, you're the same people who told me boy, 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 were like, you're going to have a girl. Because in some way, shape, or form, my thoughts changed, my mindset around how I wanted, and, everything I wanted kind of changed. So the outcome changed. If you want to be a teacher and somebody's like, yes, you're going to school, you're going to be a teacher, you're going to be a great teacher, blah, 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 blah. You're going to get a job right out of school. They have this wonderful outline for your life in all the directions that you want to go. But then maybe like a few months later, you're like, you know what? I don't want to get my master's anymore. I don't want to be a teacher. You drop out of college and you do something else. You're like, oh, that psychic was wrong. No, because for what you were taking action for and the direction that you were going, that would have been a nice outcome for you. That would have been something that could have came from it. But now you're not going to be a teacher because you made free will choices for yourself. So I feel like some things you have to take with a grain of salt because there are things that, if we change our path or we change our actions or we could change our outcome. So I don't like to dabble. That's why I don't really like to dabble in the future too much because things could change. So yeah, definitely. Our outcomes could definitely change. So one psychic might see it one way and another psychic might see it another way, based off of, how you react to certain things. So sometimes like one psychic might be like, oh, you know what, you're going to meet the love of your life this year and blah, blah, blah. But, if you don't end the relationship, maybe the toxic relationship that you're in, you may never meet this other person because you chose to stay where you were, so there could be so many different rules. So that's kind of a loaded question because there's so many. I feel like that I could answer that like 1,000 different ways, but does that kind of answer
Yeah, for sure. And I think the
question?
biggest thing that I learned from you as well was that a psychic is a person that's reading your energy, right? So if today my energy is all about like, yes, I want to become a teacher, I'm all about the teacher. Tomorrow I wake up and I'm like, you know what? I'm not into this teacher thing anymore. And then that's the day that you go to the second psychic and they say, yeah, you're not going to become a teacher. It's not because they're wrong or they're giving you incorrect information. It's just they're reading your energy.
Exactly. And it's whatever's in your mindset. Like I might be like, "Are you getting a tattoo?" And they're like, "Oh my God, I'm not getting one, but I was just talking about that today that I may get one, but I'm not going to." Like you may never get that tattoo, but you were talking about it that day. It's in your energy field. It's in your energy field, it's there, and that's what the psychic is reading, whatever's in your energy. So they might bring up things that you talked about yesterday. or conversations that you had an hour ago, whether you're doing it or not, they're just picking up that energy that you were talking about or that's around you.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, that makes complete sense. And um, and that's why it was also that I have free will at the end of the day, and what advice I get from a psychic at the end of the day, I still to get to decide if I want to follow the path.
Exactly, because we create our own reality, you know, and sometimes things that aren't in your energies, a psychic might tell you, and then you might see that they come to fruition and they happen. It might just be something that someone foresees. And also, psychics could be wrong too. I mean, we might feel like we feel a certain way, but it might not happen. It might not be true. And you know what? And when that happens, that's usually if the psychic is not jumping to a place where they need to be, if they're not acting from a place pure from their heart, or like if I go into a reading and I have too many things coming through my mind, my to-do list is like going through my mind, and my mind is kind of someplace else, I'm half listening to spirit. It's just like if you're having a conversation with someone, but then you're kind of trying to listen to the conversation that's going on next to you. It's like you're not getting the full conversation, you're getting little bits and pieces of it. It's the same thing with spirit. Like if your mind is elsewhere, and somebody might really think that they're fully connected, but they might not be. So sometimes that happens. That's why I like to refer to it as jumping. Like you jump to where you need to be, and you can't carry other people's problems with you. And that's where the inner work and the clarity comes from. You have more clarity. The more work you do on yourself, the more you're able to jump into the next moment. I could have something really, really terrible happen, and then I go into a reading. Like my grandfather passed away a few weeks ago, and I was doing readings like in between like his wake and things like that, just because I had things scheduled, and it kind of just happened. So I was taking readings the same week that he passed away, and it's not that I wasn't sad, but there was a time to be sad and there was a time to work, so you can definitely work around a lot of emotions, and if you feel like you can't, then you shouldn't do the reading that day.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And that's exactly the inner work practice that you're able to jump. Yeah, that's beautiful. So, my next loaded question is like, if the universe is always on my side and the universe is my best friend, and I am desiring like XYZ and I really want it, and I'm working on manifesting XYZ and it doesn't happen, and something else completely opposite to it happens, is it because that the universe is protecting me from that? Or basically, what I'm trying to ask is, can I manifest things which are not in my highest good?
I believe that you can manifest things that aren't in your highest good, but they won't be lasting or permanent for you. I do feel it's important to like at the end of all your manifesting, I believe it's important to say, for the greatest good or for the greatest good of all concern. I like to add that to the end because, sometimes there's something so much greater than we can see. And that's where the trust comes in, with spirit. So I do believe in manifesting for the greatest good that of everyone that's involved. You might manifest money or, a certain amount of money, but now you get someone's life insurance because they passed someone that you really care about. Not that you're manifesting someone passing, but just giving you like, an example of just, you don't know where it's going to come from. So sometimes you don't know what's going to come from. That's where it comes to down to being specific with your manifesting. I want to, I'm losing weight every day, but you want to lose weight in a healthy way. You don't want to get sick and lose weight. You want to lose weight in a healthy way. Something where maybe it's positive. So that's how I choose to see manifesting. That's how I choose myself to manifest. And sometimes if I don't get exactly what I want, then I'm like, you know what? Maybe there's another outcome. Maybe there's something greater. Maybe because we learn a lot through our challenges. I would like to learn always through joy. Once in a while, we're going to learn through challenges. And when that happens, don't be in resistance to it. Because if there's someone, for instance, that's not supposed to be in your life, and or someone that you're supposed to like move on from, and you keep keeping them there and you keep letting them affect your energy, and that's going to slow down the manifesting process. Or maybe you're not supposed to experience joy with this person, and the universe sometimes takes people out of your life because they, for reasons known or unknown, they're not supposed to be there, and then you see later on why you were supposed to go in a different direction. And sometimes, well, we might manifest time to ourselves, right? And then, so you're driving home from work, and all of a sudden you get stuck in traffic, and you could either say, oh shit, stuck in traffic, and then complain about something that you can't change, or you might just say, you know what, I wanted time to myself just to think and be alone with my thoughts. Take advantage of it. Like blast the music in the car, shut the music off, be alone with your thoughts. That might be a way that spirit gives you that chance to be alone with your mind. So manifesting can come to you, like the things that you manifest can come to you in so many different ways. And it's so important, to just be conscious of when you're getting that stuff. So instead of saying, oh, I'm in traffic, you could say, oh, I've been asking for time for myself. This is wonderful. Right. So how do you choose to spend your time? Like, how do you choose, so if you're looking at everything from, not a good place, you're gonna see it as traffic. You're not gonna see it as time. So it's important how your mindset is and how you look at things as well.
Yeah, that's so true. And I and I realized that as like, oh, I was like desiring for time alone all this while, and now I got it, not knowing. So yeah, that's so true as well. Yeah, I think our last question is if someone is looking for help, to how can we reach out to you and what kinds of help do you provide?
Well, the best way to work with me and reach out to me is probably through my website or email. So my website is danielleanatra.com, and my email is danielle@danielleanatra.com. And those are always the best ways to reach out to me, because you can look on my website, you can see all of my offerings. You could book readings, you could schedule mentoring sessions, you could email me and ask questions. Anytime you book one-on-one mentoring with me, you get like a free 30-minute complimentary session just to kind of strategize and see if we're a right fit for each other. So you're not just diving into anything. There are so many courses. I teach classes, and you could find those classes at thepsychicgym.com. Those are all spiritual development, psychic development classes, mediumship development classes, spiritual development classes. Those are all those, and the private mentoring you can get through my website, but every way to work with me is on there. So
Awesome. Thank you so much.
thank you. I'll see you guys soon.